Hey everybody, welcome to part 3 of the 4-part series on the CUSB Fotta Clapham 2019 European Open Final game. In this part I'm going to be looking at a bunch of points from the second half, and in part 4 I'll tackle the last few points and the takeaways we have from the game. If you like these videos, then please click on like, comment and subscribe. Enjoy!
In this point, Clapham come down with what looks like a 1-to-1 defence forcing middle.
Although Bologna's O-line are able to keep the disc alive in the backfield, there's nothing really developing until Loffi throws deep to Mitterrand. You can see here that Mitterrand does a one-step fake under, which Ollie Gordon bites on pretty hard, and then goes deep, and there's no hesitation from Loffi to put the disc out in front of him.
The disc fades over to the break side, which makes it impossible for Gordon to make a play. There's an uncontested strip as Tonelli steps forward at the last moment on this swing pass. Andrew Hillman's already committed to a line and tries to avoid him at the last second. Then Bruno shoots into the end zone with a long inside-out pass, but there's a pick in the end zone as the Bologna players run past each other. If the Bologna players had given themselves a bit more space, I don't think this pass would have been defended, or if the Clapham defenders had switched, I don't think the pass would have been thrown, or if it had, it would have been a turnover. Bologna restart the play, punishing Hillman's face marking here. Although he's stopping the inside-out channel, this frees up a huge amount of space on the open side, which no defender is guarding. So the disc is able to be led out into the space. Then Bologna have the momentum going into the front corner. Hillman makes the decision to stop the easy flick goal, and Ollie Gordon is caught off guard as he's been face marking and isn't aware that the break side is going to be open for the score. Clapham come out with the side stack, and Bologna come down with 1-to-1 defense. Briggs seems to be in two minds as to whether he wants to work a disc at the back with Mead, faking an open pass. Eventually Mead gets it, and there's well-timed continuation cut. But then, looking down the sideline, there are no clear options. Briggs has a nice inside-out pass. And again, when the disc is caught on the sideline, Mead pivots outwards, puts all his attention downfield down the sideline where nobody gets free. And when the pass goes backwards, the thrower is then isolated, and Magnus should complete this pass but throws it slightly too high. One thing that Mead could have done to reduce the chance of this being a turnover is to throw and go and run as he's releasing the disc, rather than pivot, throw, fake and cut. Another thing to note here is Justin Ford receives a lot of contact again. I wouldn't say this is the fault of the defender, but it's definitely enough to shake someone up. Bologna run to the disc, pick it up as quickly as possible, find open passes as the defense hasn't had any chance to set, and the high release backhand into the end zone is just slightly too floaty and Magnet gets a redemption D. Briggs brings the disc in, and Clapham's side stack gives them a limited number of options. Justin Ford makes a good cut deep, gets some separation, but you can see he's visibly frustrated, and this must be because there's a Bologna deep poach ready to switch. This is a deliberate defensive strategy by Bologna, which means that they can apply more pressure to the unders and look for more poaches and switches, knowing that if the player that they're guarding burns them deep, they have a teammate that's deep who is preempting that move and can switch. The throw to the end zone isn't to that much separation and not to the right place on the field, meaning that the defender puts on some pressure, is able to take a line to put a bid in, puts off the receiver, and there's another turnover for Clapham. Bologna run to the disc and pick it up, passing to the players that Clapham haven't begun to mark yet, getting flow going. This is a nice throw and go move. I would have preferred the catcher here to face infield and look to throw back to that thrower rather than pivoting out and looking downfield. This may have got the defender Parslow actually worried about the infield throw, which would have freed up the throw down the line. See, Bologna have multiple options everywhere in the disc, and every player that catches the disc has multiple options available to them. The loose spread offense has really nice shape. There's a slight miscommunication, meaning this flow pass in the backfield isn't made, but Bruno Mine zones in on Tonelli, fakes the defender out of the backhand, and just arcs a flick into the space that's available. It doesn't matter that Bologna are a bit messy, because he can throw incredibly accurately over players. This sudden change of disposition means Clapham are on the back foot. There's a flash poach from Justin, and Parslow sags off the handler, realizing that there are some threats downfield. Bologna keep the disc on the break side and repeatedly look for more passes onto the break side, which probably contributes to James Mead's biting on Tonelli's break side fake just a little bit too much, giving them in the end the easy open side goal.
Clapham catch the next pull, and the centering pass is faked, but nothing is created from it. There's also a completely free pass down the near sideline, but the thrower hasn't seen it and the receiver doesn't seem to be interested. Clapham start from static and are forced back into their own end zone by Bologna's loose poachy defence. They start a nice move down the near sideline, but again the energy goes into a big fake rather than getting the disc to the free person. They find the around loopy throw and Bologna transition into 1-1, and there's a poach attempt at the end which forces the throw wide but is just a fraction of a second too late. Clapham plays some good 1-1 defence in the next point. Fotta never really get into flow, and then a misthrow comes. Clapham D-line pick up the disc for the first time in this game, and they try and squeeze a shot to Ben Funk down the far sideline, where there isn't much separation and the space they're aiming for is very small. Something quite interesting happens in this point, as Andrew Hillman steps into the path of Loffi, trying to do physical defence and stopping Loffi from going to where he wants to go, but he's a little bit late, so contact is going to be initiated. Instead of shying away from it, Loffi steps up and takes the contact. Hillman knows that he probably crossed the line first, and so there's no call on the play. There's a poach from Clapham to try and get a block on a swing pass, but the poach player reacts perfectly by moving away from the defender and keeping the separation maximised. Loffi hits him immediately with a hammer and the score follows soon after. In this point, Bologna come down with 1-1 defence against Clapham's horizontal. We're going to look at what Bruno Mine does in defence here. When his player turns to go deep, instead of immediately following, he surveys the field, looks at the disc, and decides to go for a poach. The throw doesn't go to where he was hoping, and he stays near the disc to try and stifle the movement. This gives his mark about 25 yards separation and creates a 4v3 situation downfield. Bologna don't react to the 4v3, and then the free player comes under, which reduces the separation. So when he catches the disc, Bruno is just 5 yards away after that big poach attempt. So the poach attempt was essentially free, as it was not really punished by Clapham. A couple of passes later, and Bruno Mine is at it again. He knows the exact moment Briggs is going to look for his next option. And when his mark goes deep, he sees that the next option is actually going to be a swing out to the side. So instead of following the mark deep, he poaches off and puts in a fantastic bid which is just inches away. As the poach goes deep, he should be picked up by the Bologna defenders, but they react very late, meaning there's 10 yards free deep separation. But the defenders around the disc are looking dangerous, so Clapham again don't punish the poach, even though the deep Bologna defenders didn't really react to it well either. Ideally, as soon as he sees this poach, this defender switches and goes and takes one of the 3 Clapham deep players. Both of these Bologna defenders are also taking the time to look at the rest of the field whilst covering their marks. And they see another cut, this time to the near sideline. They check in with the thrower. They realise that the thrower has seen the same thing, and so then both of them flash poach into the lane, attempting to get a poach D. Briggs reacts to this quite well and throws to the poach player, even though it's quite a narrow window. When these poaches happen, one of the Clapham offence goes to get the disc. If the other one had gone deep when this poach comes off him, it wouldn't have worked for a couple of reasons. There's already a deep cut happening, and this Bologna defender reacted to those poaches by actually going and covering the deepest person that was left. There's a really close layout bid on the far sideline. And keep an eye on what Bruno Mine does here, as he sees the bid and his reaction is immediately to go and cover deep. He's marking Justin Ford, who reacts appropriately and cuts back to get the disc in his hands. However, the Bologna defender is able to then make up all that ground without really being punished for it. Justin has got the disc and thrown a swing pass. One of the Bologna defenders takes the initiative to step in and stop the throw, thinking that the original catcher may have got into the end zone. His backup should have arrived earlier, but stopped and pointed for a second and then realised that his teammates were busy, so puts a good bid in, and it's difficult to say whether it was a strip or not. Let's have a look. From the replay we can see it was a clean D. TC didn't quite have enough time to go for the clap catch, even though he probably originally thought he did. There's an errant throw in this Bologna offence, but they react to it faster than Clapham do. In fact, it kind of puts Clapham on the back foot a little. Justin covers Parslow's mark as the next viable threat, but instead of switching, he goes back to mark his original assignment, and at that exact moment he throws deep to Simonazzi, who comes up with a great grab coming right underneath Matt Parslow. He drops it on the ground as he lands. You can see from the replay that he goes up to get in front of Parslow. Parslow bids and clashes into him. The drop was a result of the contact after he'd secured the disc, so I guess it could be argued that Parslow fouled him, but It wasn't dangerous play or anything, he was just putting a good bid in. Does not stand as a turnover, Bologna keep the disc, and at this point they're right on the end zone line, so all it takes is a short pass for the score. There's a moment here where Clapham could have switched, but there's no guarantee that would have stopped Bologna from scoring in the next few seconds anyway. That's all for now, thanks for listening, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you for part 4 next.